المدائن حاشرين يأتوك بكل ساحر عليم. وجاء السحرة فرعون قالوا إن لنا لأجرا إن كنا نحن الغالبين. قال نعم وإنكم لمن المقربين. قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون نحن الملقين. قال بل ألقوا. فلما ألقوا سحروا أعين الناس واسترهبوهم وجاءوا بسحر عظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم. ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين. يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن أبكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يقولون أإذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أإنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل إن الأولين والآخرين لمجموعون إلى ميقات يوم معلوم ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الهيم هذا نزلهم يوم الدين نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت
2003 when I went to Tema Secondary School. So I eventually became president of GMSA, Ghana Muslim Students Association in Tamasco. And from there I came to Ghana Institute of Journalism. I became the GMSA president there as well. Don't say I like post. And then I am currently at the Ghana School of Law, and I'm the editorial committee chairman of GMSA. And so I'm happy to have been a part of GMSA from my childhood, and GMSA has been a very important guide for me. So when I was invited to come and do this, even though Saturdays are my resting days, I said no, GMSA is my project and my guide, so I have to be here. My name is Umar Rusanda Amadou. I'm a journalist. I work at CTFM. I work at Channel 1. This one, in case you can't see this one. And I'm very, very happy to be your moderator this morning. I'm very, very honored and exciting. And I see that we have our students from Tinasco, another school that is doing wonders for us in this space. We're going to have a very wonderful conversation this morning. 2 days ago, President Mahama said the economy was a crime scene. So when we are here to talk about the economy, it is very important. We are all trying to fix the economy in one way or the other. You fix it in your small space. Eventually, when we do the micro, we get to the macro, and then we have a grand economy. Except that we are looking at it from a different perspective. And so that is what we are coming to learn today. And again, east, west, if you're a village boy, you know your east and west and north and south, because you know where the sun rises from and where the sun sets from. I do know that. But a lot of people in the Accra campus, in Accra, they don't know where east is or west. Even their left and their right, if you ask them, sometimes they are not sure. But we know that east is Gabas, right? Because of where we are in Africa and in Ghana. But if you're in Asia, the Kaaba is not necessarily in your east, right? So we know all those things. But the sun always rises from the east and sets in the west, and then we know the sea is in the south in Ghana, and then the north we have Burkina Faso and those things. We'll look at the cardinal point. But that's just cardinal points. However, when we talk about east-west, it's a bigger socio-political global issue that we are going to talk about here through the perspective of economics. And I'm happy that we are all going to learn today. So, having said that, it's fair that we invite someone to usher us in prayer so that we can have this program properly committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so to do the opening prayer for us, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to invite the National Imam of the Ghana Muslim Students Association, Abdul Rahim, to do us the honors. So Abdul Rahim, if you could kindly come and pray for us so we can start the program, we're very, very honored. Thank you.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له جل عن الشبيه والمثيل والكهف والنذير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليله وخيرته من خلقه وأمينه على وحيه أرسله ربه رحمة للعالمين وهجة على العباد أجمعين فهدى الله تعالى به من الضلالة وبصر به من الجهالة وكثر به بعد القلة وعظنا به بعد الإيلة ولم به بعد الشتات وعمل به بعد الخوف فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين وأصحابه الغر الميامين ما اتصلت عين بالنظر ووعد أذن بالخبر وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم افتح لنا أبواب الخيرات واجعل جمعنا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا تفرقا مرحوما، ولا تجعل فينا ولا من بيننا شقيا ولا مطرودا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. سبحان رب عزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amen. And thank you so much, Imam. Thank you so much for the prayers. Having been given the endorsement officially, I think we are very ready to proceed. The most melodious document ever produced by man inspired by God is the Holy Quran. And when Muslims gather, we want to hear that read for us. And so to do that for us in a very beautiful manner, to put us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll invite Khori or Kari Adil Ibrahim to come and do the recitation for us. So Kari, if you can just come and do a Quranic recitation for us. Did I get the name right? Do I have him? Mr. President, I'm looking for Abdul Adil Ibrahim to do the Quranic recitation. Is he ready? Please fetch. I can't seem to find the person I'm supposed to. Should we hold on to that? He's coming. Okay. Are you the one? Okay. Okay, thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله وإذا كانوا معه على أمر جامع لم يذهبوا حتى يستأذنوه. إن الذين يستأذنونك أولئك الذين يؤمنون بالله ورسوله، فإذا استأذنوك لبعض شأنهم فأذن لمن شئت منهم واستغفر لهم الله، إن الله غفور رحيم. لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول بينكم كدعاء بعضكم بعضا، قد يعلم الله الذين يتسللون منكم لواذا، فليحذر الذين يخالفون عن أمره أن تصيبهم فتنة أو يصيبهم عذاب أليم. ألا إن لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض، قد يعلم ما أنتم عليه ويوم يرجعون إليه فينبئهم بما عملوا، والله بكل شيء عليم. صدق الله العظيم.
Takbir. Thank you so much. So I think I got the name wrong. It's Abdul Jalil Alhassan. He is a student of Tinasco. He's actually the imam of the student group. Thank you so much for putting us in the mood. Now, I tried to explain to you generally and casually the key things we're expecting here and why we are here. But you see, National GMSA organized this program and invited us. And so for some of us, yes, we've seen the invitation, we have come, but we're not really sure what the parameters are, what exactly we are coming to discuss here today. And I think the best person who can do that for us is the man who leads the students' front as far as Muslim students is concerned. He's the one who has led his team, organized his team to put up this together. He's going to welcome us, and in welcoming us, also help us usher our dignitaries to the high table. So I'm going to invite, ladies and gentlemen, the national president of the Ghana Muslim Students Association, our own president, Malan Tamim Amin. You're welcome, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Our distinguished guest, Prof. Mehmet Bulut. We have our esteemed chief, the Dagomba chief of Medina. We have our other dignitaries here. I greet you all with the salutations of Islam. It is with great honor and immense pleasure that I welcome you all to GMSA Economic Lecture 2025. Today marks yet another milestone in our collective efforts towards intellectual empowerment and economic enlightenment and the strategic positioning of the Muslim students within the national and global conversation on economic transformation. The theme for this year's lecture is Transformation of the World System, East, West, and Islamic World. It's both timely and critical. As we navigate an ever-evolving global economic landscape, it is imperative to analyze the structural shifts taking place across the different economic and political blocks, and more importantly, the role of Islamic economics in shaping a more equitable and sustainable future. We are privileged to host a distinguished speaker and esteemed personalities, including Dr. Professor Mehmet Bulut, a renowned professor of economics and economic history, and also to host Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Minister, Deputy Minister Designate for Roads and Highways, Dr. Khadija Iddrisu, a leading consultant and academic in finance. I would also like to extend our deepest gratitude to our chairman for this event, Mr. Farihan Alhassan, the Managing Director of GCB Bank, whose presence endorses the critical role of financial institutions in shaping economic transformation. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the Ghana Muslim Students Association remains committed to fostering knowledge and sharing knowledge through platforms that equip our members with the tools necessary for academic and professional excellence. Through such engagement, we reaffirm our belief that the youth, particularly the Muslim students, have a pivotal role to play in national development. As we commence this important discourse, I encourage all of you present here to actively engage, ask questions, and take full advantage of the wealth of knowledge being shared here today. Let us leave this gathering not only informed but also inspired to be the agents of positive change in our communities and beyond. Once again, I warmly welcome you all, and I pray for a successful and impactful event. May Allah wa ta'ala bless our deliberations. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I use this opportunity to usher in our dignitaries on their seats. Thank you so much. Chief. Prof. Professor Mehmet Bulut, who is the keynote speaker in today's lecture, who is a professor in economics and economic history. Prof, thank you so much. We invite Mr. Farihan Alhassan, who is the Managing Director of GCB Bank, Ghana. We invite Chief Munkaila, who is the Dagomba Chief of Medina Community. We also invite Dr. Khadija Iddrisu, who is a lecturer in economics and finance. Thank you so much. I think my duty here is
And we also invite Mr. Tamim, who is the president of GMSA, to sit at the high table with us. Please join the team at the high table for us. Thank you. We are expecting the Member of Parliament, Deputy Minister nominee, to join us in a bit. You know, the president is still forming his government, so a lot of things are happening. Maybe they are having cabinet meeting or something, some strategic meeting somewhere. So he has sent his special assistant to tell us that he will be here in a bit. So that's his special assistant. So everything is under control. We're going to proceed now. Of course, the keynote, we're expecting to see that. But we also have to have a chairman before we can commence this program. And so, is Rashidat around? Good. To introduce our chairman for the day, I want to invite a student of the University of Ghana, a member of the Ghana Muslim Students Association, Rashida Abdullah Tete, to introduce our chairman and invite our chairman to preside over today's proceedings. So, Rashida, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Kindly permit me to introduce our chairman for the event, Mr. Farihan Alhassan. Farihan Alhassan is a highly accomplished financial specialist with 2 decades of experience in the banking industry. His immediate past engagement was as the executive responsible for the business and commercial clients unit at Stanbic Bank Ghana, where he provided strategic leadership in driving the bank's commercial banking agenda and optimizing business performance across the country. Beginning his career at a remarkably young age, Mr. Alhassan made headlines at just 26 when he became the youngest regional manager at Barclays Bank, now ABSA. His ascent through the ranks continued as he took on the role of head of retail and distribution, where his people-centered leadership and commitment to performance management left a lasting impact on the organization. Throughout his tenure at Stanbic, Mr. Alhassan earned acclaim for his visionary leadership, strategic focus, and customer-first approach, positioning him as a key figure in the competitive banking landscape. His appointment at GCB Bank is seen as a strategic move to bolster the bank's leadership and reinforce its status as a dominant force in the Ghanaian banking sector. Farihan is a result-driven professional with extensive expertise in retail and business banking. He has a proven track record of building resilient businesses, transforming underperforming units, and turning around operations to achieve sustainable growth. His core skills include business development, operational management, credit and risk oversight, and dynamic leadership. Additionally, Farihan is a strong advocate for team.
So, Mr. Chairman, your audience, your chairman.
Who am I to say I cannot say it? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and members of the Ghana Muslim Students Association, I'm honored to chair this economic symposium, and I thank the organizers for inviting me. today's theme, transforming the world system, West, East, and Islamic world, economically, politically, and socially, is both timely and thought-provoking. It's coming at a time when we've seen two Muslims as heads of two national banks in the country. And we have already started having conversation around how do we make Islamic banking possible in Ghana now and then. And so I find it timely that we're having this kind of conversation at this moment in time. There have been different schools of thoughts around the world order. People have said that the economic downturn we saw in the world was probably because of the traditional vanilla banking system. And so there have been concerns and discussions around, do we think Islamic banking is the right formula to take us out of this predicament? And so I would welcome some thought-provoking conversations here to just agree on what we need to do. But I can tell you that there's already been that conversation between myself and my colleague in NIB, Dolewura, to see how we could make Islamic banking come to life in this country. As we gather here today, our world is at a critical juncture. Globalization, technological advancement, and shifting geographical landscapes are redefining the world order. The Islamic world, with its rich history, cultural heritage, and a growing economic influence, has had a vital role to play in shaping this new world order. Throughout this symposium, we will delve into the complexity of transforming our world system. We'll explore the economic, political, and social dimensions of this transformation, drawing on insights from Western, Eastern, and Islamic perspectives. I urge our speakers and participants to engage in robust discussions, share their expertise, and challenge our assumptions. Let us strive for a nuanced understanding of the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. As we navigate these transformative times, let us remember the Islamic values of justice, compassion, and equality. May our deliberations be guided by the principles of mutual respect, open-mindedness, and commitment to betterment of the humanity. Without further ado, I declare this economic symposium open. I invite our first speaker to take the stage. Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much. Chairman has accepted. It means the road is clear for us to proceed. And we're here for a lecture, right? And so on your form, you see that the written address. I don't want to call it an address. Let's call it a lecture, which means that you're not going to take notes. You only take notes in your mind, jot down something small, and then take points down so that you ask questions at the end, because you notice that we have interactive section at the end. So let's try and give our lecture time. Let's hear from our lecturer. Let him come and speak to us. Let's understand the broad concepts and then proceed from there. But then again, because I've already said I do not have locus in introducing special persons, and I do not have that power, I'm going to bring back Rashida again. So, of course, we have seen the photo of our special speaker, but what else do we not know about him? Rashida wants to be an investigative journalist, so she started by digging up information on people. So she's coming to share more with us. So Rashida, please, let's welcome her back to come and tell us more about our lecture. Are you ready for me? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MC. Assalamu alaikum once again. Dr. Mehmet Bulut is a distinguished economist and academic with expertise in economic history, long-term economic growth, comparative economics, and Islamic finance. He currently serves as a professor of economics and economic history at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University in Turkey. I hope I got the name right. Okay. He holds a PhD in economic history from the University of Utrecht, Netherlands. Okay, sure. And has pursued advanced studies in economics and social history at prestigious institutions in Turkey and the Netherlands. His research focuses on the historical and contemporary economic relations between Europe, Turkey, and the Islamic world, as well as the evolution of economic and financial institutions. Dr. Bulut has held various academic and administrative positions, including serving as the president of Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University 2013 to 2020, and a visiting scholar at Harvard University, Princeton University, Cambridge University, and Erasmus University. He has also been actively involved in research and policy advisory roles, serving as a board member of the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, and the chairman of the Working Group on Sustainable Development and Finance at the Turkish Academy of Science. Throughout his career, Dr. Bulut has contributed significantly to academia and policy making, with numerous publications in economic history, Islamic finance, and international trade. His leadership at IZU led to the establishment of several graduate and undergraduate programs, the expansion of research initiatives, and the development of Zaim Technopark, a hub for innovation and technology. Dr. Mehmet Bulut continues to be a leading voice in global economic discussions, particularly on the transformation of world economic systems from the perspective of the East, the West, and the Islamic world. Today, he's our keynote speaker on the topic, Transformation of the World System, East, West, and Islamic World. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, so we now know who our lecturer is, and so are we ready for him? Are we ready? Before we get through to that though, those of us whose data bundle has finished, we have Wi-Fi here. So the Wi-Fi is called WACCBIP. I'm giving you the password so you can log in case you want to Google some information to ask our lecturer afterwards. So the password for the Wi-Fi is WACCBIP. WACCBIP. At. And this at is a symbol at 10S. 0S4 is long. It's here. If you need it, please, I can pass it on. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, our lecturer. Sir, we're ready for you.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters, the chairperson of GMSA, the chairman, Mr. Farihan Alhassan, managing director of GCP Bank, Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Dr. Hatice Iddrisu, the general manager of Uday International Technical School, professors, students from Ghana University, ladies and gentlemen, this is my second time here at University of Ghana. I came here 10 years ago as the leader of delegation from Turkey, academic delegation. We realized an international conference on the relations between Turkey and Africa here in Ghana University. We came with 20 professors here. We spent a couple of days here in this university, and this is my second time. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this conference again to be here at University of Ghana. And I also would like to thank to all of you for coming and to be here with us today. In recent 10 years, a lot of change has happened in the world. And today, we will try to see this kind of some challenges in the world. And within this title, as you see, we will try to see the challenges in the world economy, finance, world economic system, and try to look at from the Muslim East-West perspective. Here, there is a book on the crisis of democratic capitalism, which was very recently published by Martin Wolf. He says, today's challenges are beginning to look as significant as those of the first half of 20th century. We see fundamental shifts in global power, then from UK and France towards Germany and United States. Now from United States to China. We see huge crisis. Then the world wars, 2 world wars in recent century. Spanish flu, hyperinflations of Central Europe in the early 1920s, and the Great Depression of 1930s, now the Great Recession, COVID-19, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, we see a collapse of democracies and the rise of authoritarianism, then in Germany, Italy, Spain. Liberal democracy throughout the 20th century. Above all, we confront the risks of nuclear war and runaway climate change, the former largely unimagined before the 1930s and the later barely considered before the 1980s. He is continuing. The first big shock was attacks on United States on September 11, 2001, which were followed by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The biggest change of all was a counterpart of economic success of globalization, namely the rise of China, and to a much lesser extent India. This created a shift in the balance of global economic and so political power away from United States and the liberal West toward China and its system of bureaucratic absolutism. This was far from the only way in which global politics changed. As the 21st century progressed, we saw a shift away from liberal democracy towards a system that some have called illiberal democracy, but might be better described as demagogic autocracy. In a recent book, the Russian economist Sergei Guriev and the American political scientist Daniel Trisman called these systems spin dictatorships to distinguish them from the fear dictatorships of old. Else, the shift towards demagogic or spin system is to be seen so far in nascent from not only a new democracies, but also in some of the world's most established democracies, notably the United States, where Donald Trump remained an embodiment of the aspiration for arbitrary power even after this defeat. So why I read this? If I would start to in introduction, they introduced me as an important speaker, but I am sure when I read, this is the writer from United States, and he is very effective writer, multi-involved. So I tried to show you that you see the critics, the analysis is coming from the West, and they clearly declare that something is changed now in the world system. I think you understood what I tried to underline. And now we will come, you know, there was Francis Fukuyama in his essay At the End of History, published as the Cold War ended in 1989. Many agreed with him that Western synthesis of liberal democracy with the free market had won a decisive victory over its ideological enemies. The end of last totalitarian ideology seemed to many not just an extraordinary and surprising event, but one that promised a better future for humanity towards the end of the 20th century. The era of totalitarian coercion and mass murder was over. Freedom, political and economic freedom, had won. Just 30 years, 40 years ago, this was the expectation. After this publication, what happened in the world? Just after this declaration, 3 years later, in the center of Europe, we have seen Srebrenica genocide, Bosnian crisis. In the core of Europe. Then, at the same year, we experienced Algerian elections in North Africa. A new party come to the power as elected party. That there was democracy, you know, in Africa, everywhere. Then, in 2013, we experienced Arab Spring in the West and North Africa, West Asia and North Africa. Then, as you are following nowadays, in 2023, we have seen the tragedy, a new genocide in Gaza, in Palestine, in Fertile Crescent, and all the biggest world powers, leaders of the world powers, have seen, and they came to in front of this genocide to the Netanyahu, and they declared that we are not Jews, but we are Zionists. We are supporting you as you follow. Today, the Western synthesis of democracy and capitalism is in crisis. There is no doubt. It's very clear. United States is not just any country today. It is a creator of the post-Second World War liberal order, as you know. Western civilization, liberal democracy, and free market capitalism is now in question. What about the new center rising the East? China, the world's rising superpower, stands for a very different way of managing the links between political power and wealth generation. One might call this authoritarian capitalism or bureaucratic capitalism. It is also Western style of capitalism. It is capitalism. So, for the future, can we be optimistic or pessimist? So these are my publications. I have just 1 hour to speak to you, but it's not enough, I am sure. These are my publications. The Ottoman World and the Western Economy was published by Cambridge Publishing. Economic financial institutions from early modern period to 20th century. A comparative perspective between the West and Islamic financial institutions. The other book is on sustainability practices, cases. So the second book was published by Palgrave. The third one is on sustainability, sustainable practices, cases from business and charities, by Turkish Science Academy, was published. And the last one is Silk Road, rethinking on Silk Road. And this is, I lead this project. It's 14 volumes. 14 volumes based on Ottoman archives. Ottoman financial system based on cash works, free interest, economic system, financial system. These are the collections from the Ottoman archives. Every document translated to modern Turkish language, and also for more than 1,000 archival documents are also, I summarized in 3 languages. As summaries, English, Arabic, and Turkish you can find. So if you would like to directly, these are for scholars, but if you write to Google Scholar, my name, you can see so many publications in international referred journals in English. You can find and you can read more. So today is not enough to explain you my story, brothers and sisters. See, this picture is very important. Here you see in last millennium, the change in the share of the world economy, share of the countries, the continents from the world economy. As you see, 80% of share of world economy belongs to the East a millennium years ago. Starting, you see, from 16th century onwards, but especially after the middle of 19th century. After the middle of 19th century, you see the eastern part of the world share declined, but the western, you see, United States, United Kingdom, France, Italy, German, share, and also Japan increased. Till what time? You see, till 1980s. Till 1980s. You see this in 150 years, the Western share, the Western economy share increased in the world economy. 150 years. Keep in your mind, from the middle of 19 till 1980s. But after that, you see, there is a big change start after 1980s. Keep in mind another thing, Fertile Crescent around Mediterranean, the center of the world economy, finance, technology, science, was the center in the middle, in the Mediterranean. From the beginning of the civilizations, from 12,000 years ago, just 150 years, you see, within this long history, the center moved to the west, from Mediterranean first to Atlantic Europe, then to United States. But their share in the world economy and their leadership is just 150 years in the long history of civilizations, 12,000 years. If you calculate, it is less than 2%. And now you see this world economy, center of the world economy, is changing again towards the east from the west. So this is very crucial. And another thing, I am talking about this area, Fertile Crescent, the center of the world civilizations were this area, till 19th century, till the middle of 19th century. But after this time, the center moved first to Atlantic Europe, then to United States. So this was the area that 25 million square kilometers was under the control of the Ottoman Empire from the beginning of 14th century till the first quarter of 20th century. It was ruled by the Ottoman Turks. North Africa, modern Middle East, you see Europe, 3 continents. But this is a huge area. As you can see, Mediterranean was a kind of lake. Black Sea was a kind of lake. Aegean Sea was a kind of lake. Adriatic Sea, Red Sea, 5 seas, big, seas were a kind of lake for the Ottomans, as you see here. So, but after the collapse of Ottoman Empire, as you see, the Western extension, you're welcome. So what we experienced during this time, during the Western hegemony in the world economy, what we experienced, 2 systems, capitalism and socialism. But at the end of the day, we come towards the end of 20th century. In long 20th century, they compete, but the socialism failed, and the capitalism won the game between these 2 systems. And now we are in 25, as you see. This is in nominal US dollar value and accounting. The world economy is now 115 trillion US dollar. And United States is the biggest economy within this context. But more importantly, this table shows us that now the biggest economy is China. This is based on purchasing power parity. China is the first country, the biggest share in the world economy. The second is United States, here you see. The third is India, Russia, Japan, Germany, Brazil, Indonesia, and Turkey is in 12th here with 3.5 trillion US dollar. So this is a real table, I would say, for the present situation of the world economy and the share of the economies in the world. And so, very important figure is, where is the crisis? Where is crisis coming from? See to this chart, what you will see, the world borrowed a total nearby 100 trillion US dollar is a debt. And the biggest share belongs to United States. 34% of world debt belongs to United States, the biggest world economy. This is China share, Japan share, France, Germany, Italy. We will come to this point again. But here you see United States share. Its debt to GDP is higher than its GDP. 100%, 23 more than its GDP. They have debt to rest of the world. China is another country that 86% of its debt is 80% of its GDP. Japan, twice times is higher, its debt to its GDP. You see United Kingdom, France, Italy. So what you have seen here, the biggest Western economies, especially the biggest Western economies, has a huge debt. The rest of the world is financing their economies. This is the reality. What we have seen here, the share, there are two groups of countries here, G7 and E7. G7 are here in this group, United Kingdom, United States, France, Germany, Japan, Canada, Italy. In E7 we have China, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, and Turkey. So, in the beginning of my speech, I tried to give you a picture, real picture, that in recent 150 years, in between the middle of 19 and 1980s until the last quarter of 20th century, it's really very big challenge. You see, this chart shows us that the Western advanced economies are in decline and emerging economies, developing economies are in expansion. There is no any way, no alternative. This is the reality. Nobody can change this picture for the future. There is no way. They can do what they want, but there is no, as economic historian, I am sure I am trying to say you that this is the real picture. There is no other way. So the Western developed economies are in decline and the new powers are coming. This is the reality. And see here the share, new share of this in 2017 as purchasing power parity. China was the first again. After 2015, it became the first. And second, India. United States was second at that time. But now this is what will happen at 2030. China is the first, India is the second, United States is the third, then Indonesia is the fourth, and Turkey is the fifth in the world economy. Their shares, you see, just one country from Europe is in top 10. It's Germany. All the other Europeans are out of 10. Now there are 5, you know. There are 5 in top 10 world economy powers from Europe, but in 2030, not in 2050. So the picture is sharply changed. And this is, you know, the growth path of E7 and G7. So another very important detail about the emerging 7, be careful, in emerging 7, there are 4 countries except Russia, Brazil, and Mexico. You see, Russia, Brazil, and Mexico, their contribution in this picture that I showed you before is very limited. But the 4 countries, China, Turkey, India, and Indonesia, they changed the picture. These 4 And two of them are Muslim countries, Turkey and Indonesia. Very effective. In between, you see 1992 and 2020, in recent, 20 years, these are their contributions to the world economy. You see, 20% from China, 15% came from Turkey. India is about, let's say, 6%. Indonesia about 6%. So the other, Russia, Brazil, and Mexico, contribution is low. But the other four has a big effect. So this is the global balance share. There are the details here. I don't want to take your time again. This is the, again, the comparison between emerging economies and advanced economies in, growth rate, projections for the future. So the world, again, United States, Euro area, details. So now you will see in 2100, you will see at the end of 21st century, we will see very different picture. From Africa, we have Nigeria in the top 10. We have another country from Africa, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Egypt. You see, Africa is coming. And now I am here with the future of the world, with my sisters and brothers in Africa. You are the future of the world, as you see. So you can be proud and you can be happy. But in which way? We will see in which way. So, and what is the main effect behind this change? The main effect is coming from population. Human being, human resources, human capital. And the most important institution within this respect is the family, family values. And the biggest advantages belongs to the Muslim societies because this institution is under protection in Islamic values compared to the rest of the world. It is the biggest advantage. So, population, when you see the project for the Muslim population, nowadays it's about 23 as the share of the world population, but towards the middle of 21st century, 2050, it will increase till Muslim share will reach to 30% of the world economy, and towards the end of century, it's increasing. So it is good news, but which countries you see? India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Egypt. So this is picture in nowadays, but towards the middle of 21st century, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Egypt. So here, new countries are rising again. So these are the pictures about the change of the population. Nigeria, you see, is increasing. Indonesia is in decrease. India is in a stable. Pakistan is in increase. Egypt is in increase. You see, the most dynamic population is coming from Africa, by the way. So, and another issue, not just Muslim countries, the Muslims who are living in the West or in the rest of the world, they are also increasing their share. In France, you see, 24% are the Muslims. In South Africa, 21%. In Germany, 16%. You see Belgium, United States, also in other parts of the world. So the Muslims are increasing. Again, you see the other picture. But so there are something we have to know within this dynamics. In addition to population, there are also some other dynamics in these global challenges. What we have to know, there are some rates in motion. Trading evolving interest rate dynamics, global trade realignments, economic resilience, then finance gets a technical issues may take over. Decentralized finance, blockchain technology is very critical term. وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. It is the main mission for the Muslims in the future, inshallah. So you see, again, these challenges, U.S. debt default, global economic slowdown, labor shortages and supply chain disruptions, global financial instability, new crisis, high oil prices, health scares, U.S. government shutdown, higher unemployment, Chinese property crisis, trade wars in between United States and China, fiscal squares, U.S. dollar strength, inflation, cyber threats, climate change, climate risks, high real interest rates, civil unrest, geopolitics and conflicts, artificial intelligence, higher military spending, reduced commitment of climate action. These are the big challenges for the future. And you see the interest rate, financial management and financial side is very critical again. And as you see, from the beginning of 21st century till in the first 10 years, there is a kind of, similarities between the emerging markets and developing economies in their inflation, and the real interest rates. But after 2010, there is a gap, and a gap is, the Western interest rate is in decline, negative, you see, but the other side is positive, and it shows the dynamics in one part. But we have to be careful as a Muslim intellectuals, as a Muslim leading the financial institutions. We need to introduce some new models based on free interest models, and the world is looking for. So this is our main, responsibility within this context. So where is the future for humanity within this picture? So the Nobel Prize winners in recent years, 2024, in their book, The Narrow Corridor, Daron Acemoglu, who is Turkish professor at MIT, and James Robinson from United States, offer a complementary perspective on the fragile balance that allow a free society to work. The state strong enough to provide security and protection to people, but not so strong as to deprive them of their freedoms. There is then a narrow corridor between the two extremes where the interaction between the state and civil society works. Consider how societies may depart from this corridor. Which continent or which region, Asia, Africa, Europe, or American continent, or which country can lead for a better world, balance in economy, finance, and society? China, Russia, India, United States, UK, Brazil. And what represent the Muslims, especially the countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and recent times in Turkey? Where is the future? Western capitalism? Eastern capitalism? Turkic world, Islamic world, Muslims? This is the history. And Silk Road in history was very critical. First globalization world was here, this is Silk Road, these are the spices roads. When the first Portuguese came here in 16th century, they came here in 15th century, by the way. After the Turkish conquest of Constantinople, the European expansion started, and the Portuguese came here in 1460s. first time, Portuguese. Then Dutch came, then British. So they tried to find alternative roads to this Silk Road. So when they came here to Africa, to Asia, Europeans, before their existence, they coming to Africa and Asia, there was a free market economy. There was ethical economy. But they distracted and they tried to construct a monopolistic capitalist economy. So, and especially in the recent 2 centuries, they succeed, as I tried to explain, but now the picture is changing. This is the reality. A new roads in East-West, you see, is, under, expansion nowadays. This is a new development road. So, what we need, I am trying to give you some ideas. This is for discussion. Think about that. We need, I think, a new economic system, a new financial system based on the justice. So these are, Islamic civilization, Islamic heritage can give us. We have very big advantage if we can cover this background. So Islamic takaful, Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic finance, Islamic banking can play a role. What is the main difference comparing to capitalism, socialism, and Islamic system? In capitalism, private ownership and profit-making motive from trade. Socialism is state control of resources and income redistribution. But in Islam, we are also thinking about the others, not just focus on our own interest as homo economicus. It is not just for us. Capitalists think that everything must be for me. Socialists think that not for you, not for me. But Islam is introducing a system both for you and both for me. Sharing economy. Share everything. Share profit, share value. So that means altruism, voluntary redistribution of income, wealth through charity contributions. And in Islamic economic, and so when we compare the Islamic view and conventional system, in Islam, justice and equality in economy and society is important, but in the conventional current system, profit maximization and focus on efficiency. In law, divine and unalterable in Islam, but in the modern, man-made and evolutionary. Rights and responsibilities, rights of possession, but limitation in Islam. In conventional system, unconditional rights to ownership. On Islamic side, on ownership, we have zakat, we have sadaqah, we have waqf institutions, voluntary institutions. But in the other side, voluntary charities. In Islamic side, collective welfare, more important than individual welfare. But in conventional system, individual welfare, more important than collective welfare. Freedom restricted to divine will in Islamic side, but in modern times, freedom restricted to changing norms of society. Very critical for the values of humanity and the family values. So ethics dominate efficiency in Islamic system, but in modern conventional system, efficiency dominates the ethics, unfortunately. We are the followers of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he says, I was sent as a last messenger to complete the best example of ethics, makarim ahlak, ethics. So in social level, within Islamic system, we have zakat, infaq, sadaqah, corporate social responsibility for the government also, partially commercial level, waqf, corporate social responsibility, microfinance, and in commercial level we have Islamic banking. So 3 levels you see on just in finance. So there are so many details in Islamic finance, but the main are prohibition of interest, prohibition of maisir, prohibition of zarar, and profit and loss sharing in the system, ethical and moral values, lawful activities. So we need this kind of approach, I think. And in Islamic finance principles, compared to conventional, there are very fundamental differences. In Islam, you can finance the real economy, real projects. But in modern conventional system, you can sell money. You can finance, material things. You can finance also, the artificial things. In Islamic finance, the main principles, you see, equity-based contracts, musharaka partnership, mudaraba profit sharing, wakala investment system agent, musharaka, muzara'a, labor and materials profit, sale-based contracts, second type, muraba'a, istisna, salam, ijara. In debt-based contracts, you see Qarza Hasan, amana and wadi'a, and charitable contracts. Waqf institution is here, and Tekaful is in a cooperative financial approach. It is, so these are the four different principles of Islamic finance. So when we look at the global Muslim consumer sector, it is not just Islamic finance. We are talking about the food, the fashion, primary schools, cosmetics, travel, tourism, media. So Islamic economy, in economy, the Muslims do not focus just on finance. There are also broad areas, not just commercial finance, but also Islamic finance and Islamic social finance. You see, financing the economic progress, economic impacts of Waqf, eradicating the poverty, restoring distribution of income, preventing deficit financing, reducing government expenditure. So with Islamic social finance institutions, there is very strong connection between these institutions and sustainable development goals also on sustainability. So global Islamic economy indicators in the top 15 countries among the Muslim world. And this is the picture about the Turkish economy in recent years. As I mentioned before, what is behind? There are population advantages, technological investments. ARD is important for all of the Islamic Ummah. NRD is the very critical, from defense industry to all part. So institutional structure is important. We reorganized our economies, our political systems to, to focus on the development, economic, social development in a balance. Economic geography for Turkey, of course, Pax Ottomana was a peace region in history for more than 6 centuries, and nowadays, as you can see, Turkey is really playing critical role in the recent issue of Syria and the other, regional issues. And a new economic paradigm is under, implementation, and it's important. So Istanbul is a new financial center and also a new center for Islamic economics. So, and Islamic finance, Islamic participation banks are increasing, and the share within this respect is increasing. So Turkey has some goals. What kind of goals? Ottoman Empire conquered Istanbul from Byzantine Empire in the middle of 15th century, in 1453. So, you see in Turkey has some goals, 2053 again. And Turkey first time entered to Anatolia, Turkish Muslims, and conquered Anatolia from Byzantine Empire in a millennium years ago, in 1071. And Turkey put a goals, 2071 goals. As you can see, this is, the vision for the future of Turkey. Education is very critical, brothers and sisters. Education, without education, we cannot succeed. You have to focus, education is the main advantage and the main obligation for all of us. You know, from childhood till the end of our life, education for everybody, not just for male, female, male, no division. We have to be careful. Industry and technology, domestic and national production, institutional structures, geography, Silk Road, new trading routes. I tried to give a picture. Energy and finance, Istanbul Financial Center. Thank you very much for your attention, and I think it's enough for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet Bulut. I think we can give him another round of applause. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you for the perspectives. Now, when he was talking, I was trying to take notes and also nod. And a few things that I wrote down. To be a good Muslim and a capitalist is impossible. He said that. Then he also talked about homo economicus. After that one, I'll go for lectures later to understand what it means. And then Islamic finance is shared economics. And that's another point that he has made that I have written down. But me, while I was saying that, there was someone who was nodding vigorously her head. The head almost fell off. That person, can I have my phone? So that person is whom I'm going to invite to say, what were you nodding to? What were you understanding? Me, the economy, I'm not that strong inside. I talk for a living, but economy is not my thing. So I'm going to invite someone who understands the economy so well to appreciate for us what exactly has been said. Maybe perhaps give us another perspective to that. The person I'm inviting is a lecturer at the Islamic University College of Ghana with over 5 years of teaching and professional experience. She's a prolific writer and has established herself as a leading authority in finance and a valuable contributor to professional discussion. She has a PhD in finance, MPhil in finance, executive mini, MBA in corporate governance and finance reporting, Bachelor of Science in accounting. Ladies and gentlemen, let's invite to the podium Dr. Khadija Iddrisu to give us her perspective.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I greet you with the most beautiful greeting in Islam. And as I stand here in front of esteemed men, it is only humbling that I've been called upon to give you another perspective. In fact, there's nothing to be said. However, as the elders sit here and put your trust in us, we want to give our share. Mr. Chairman, His Eminence, the Dagomba Chief of Medina, Mbana Munkaila, our esteemed Professor Bulut, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Alhassan Suhuyini, and Mrs. Honorable Minister, the esteemed executive of the National JMSA, the esteemed past executives of the National JMSA, esteemed students, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chair, permit me on your existing protocols to add my voice to the already diverse, discussed, intrigued, and well-researched conversation. Mr. Chair, there's no doubt that there's a paradigm shift in the world which we cannot ignore. On the social front, for instance, we are witnessing a resurgence of cultural identities as individuals and communities reaffirm their values and tradition in response to pressures of globalization. On the economic front, the emergence of markets and the expanding middle class in countries like China, Indonesia, India, et al. As reshaping the global economic order. Politically, the Islamic world faces significant challenges about democratization, secularism, and the role of religion. in governance, while the West are in the battle of who leads the world. Do we have a say as an Islamic community? Yes, and it was succinctly explained. As we look ahead, it is essential to adopt nuanced and contextual aware perspectives of these shifts, recognizing both the opportunities and the obstacles they present. By promoting dialogue like the one we are having today, that would foster collaborations to understand the cultural perspective with humility and sensitivity. In this regard, I have proposed 3 key takeaways for you and I that will guide our steps. Firstly, the importance of contextual understanding as we engage across cultures and society. It is crucial that we approach these interactions with sensitivity, humility, and deep appreciation for historical, cultural, and political context that shapes them. Secondly, there is a need for inclusive and participatory governance in our quest for more just and equitable societies. We must prioritize governance structures that are inclusive, empowering the marginalized groups, and fostering transparency, accountability, and shared responsibility. With that effect, I don't just research on economic growth, but I research on inclusive economic growth. A growth that will be felt in Accra and in my village. A growth that the very person who would report that we have 3.5% GTB can go back to their village and see it in the lives of people. Thirdly, the pursuit of sustainable development goals, and you and I know that's what the world is singing now. As we navigate the complexities of globalization, it is vital that we prioritize development models that balance economic growth with social justice, what Islam represents, and environmental stewardship, while upholding the intrinsic value of human well-being and dignity. In conclusion, the transformation taking place in the East, West, and the Islamic world offer rare opportunities to rethink and reshape our global systems. Let us embrace this moment with courage, creativity, and a steadfast commitment to our shared humanity. Together we can build a future that is free, a future that is more just, a future that is equitable, and a peaceful one of that matter. This is also a call to a reminder to you and I as Africans that as Prof was delving in this important topic, when you look, we are almost invisible. That it's time to brace up, that we are not part of the world discussion. We are way behind. However, there are opportunities we have that we can harness on. Number one being our youthful population. The second being the advancement of technology. Globalization, that you and I, instead of me wearing a traditional Dagomba cloth, I am wearing this dress maybe from some part of the world. These are opportunities and many more we can harness on as Africans to speed up the conversation and be part of the table when we are speaking, or brace ourselves for another recolonization if we are not already colonized. To the men that inspire us because they believe that the success of the next generation can be discussed without empowered women in the discourse, we are grateful. And we harness on that to always stand toward in front of matters when it is important. The many young Khadijas here and out there, if there's a religion that promotes women, then it is our Islam, your Islam, my Islam. And it is documented in history. So strive, because you have men like Mr. Farihan, Chief Namun Kaila, Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Professor Bulut, and many honorable men both in this hall and outside, rooting for us. Thank you for your audience, and I'm sure we will have this day to remember. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khadija. The importance of contextual understanding inclusive governance, and the pursuit of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I think we can give her another round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, I think I have to aspire to become like him because the things he's doing, I want to do so. I've told you I'm a journalist. This man, when I finished secondary school, I was listening to him on radio. He was doing journalism, hard one. And then he gave up on the journalism and decided to do politics. I'm also thinking now that I should also do politics because I've done the journalism small. I've not reached his level yet, but I'm hoping. Our next speaker is a Ghanaian politician. He's a journalist and a dedicated advocate for social justice and national development. He serves as a member of parliament for Tamale North in the northern region. He's recently been named Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways. He's yet to go and face his colleagues, especially Alex Afenyo-Markin, to grill him. So please pray for him. I've been told by a bird somewhere around that he's pursuing a PhD here at the University of Ghana. How far with that one? We'll be asking him. But he did not come here alone. He also came with Mrs. Honorable Haji Hamdia Amadou Yakubu-Voski. Please give us a wave from the front. Thank you so much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let's invite Member of Parliament, Tamale North, Minister Deputy Nominee for Roads and Highways, Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini.
My brother Omar, that's how the world is. We go in cycles. As he was listening to me, now I listen to him. And I get amazed at the level of mischief he does on air. And sometimes I wish I could go back on radio and learn some of the mischief from him. But here he is also hoping to learn the politics that I have started. But that is the nature of life. But I'm sure that he's going to do very well whenever he decides to do politics. Let me say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh to all of us. And a very good morning to everyone seated here. But starting with acknowledgement of the chair, and thank you very much for the invitation by the organizers to be part of this very important conversation. I must also commend earlier speakers before me for the thought-provoking presentations that they both did. Let me also pay reverence to our father and chief, the Dagbambana, our guardian here, especially in Accra. Thank you very much for your grace and your participation today. Now, it is difficult for one to speak, especially on a topic that has already been well handled by experts in that field. It's difficult for one to speak after such eloquent and brilliant speakers. And especially so because I'm not an economist. Yes, even if I'm pursuing a PhD, it's only in political administration. It's not in economics. I'm not also a lecturer. I am not a banker like the chairman himself. I'm just a politician. But I still think that a conversation such as this ought to be had, and especially now, because of where our world is going, and because of the role that we each have to play in ensuring that we take advantage of the change that we see around us. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was younger, I had a notion, and this may be taken on a light-hearted note. The notion was that the Arab world is rich, but the evidence of their unsupportive nature is evidence in the fact that you hardly could find an Obroni Wau Zalabia in the market. Now it is quite common to find one. But when I was younger, that was the notion that the Arab world is rich, but they do not support the underprivileged. They do not support each other the way they should. And that evidence was in the fact that if you went to the market looking for Obroni Wau, you will not find Zalabia in the Obroni Wau. This was a notion I grew up hearing and having. So imagine my confusion when I grew up to understand the Islamic principles of justice, fairness, compassion, and accountability. And the fact that Islam is identified as more than just a religion. It's a civilization, it's a way of life, and it's an identity. You and I are very privileged to be living in an epoch moment where systems in the world as they existed for generations are beginning to undergo groundbreaking transformations. Our politics, both local and international, the structure of our society and economies are all being transformed all around us. Without exception, in the East, in the West, in the South, in Islamic nations, sometimes the changes are shocking. For example, the impact of the Me Too movement on sexual harassment and assault, the rise of populist leaders in the West, challenging established political norms, the Arab Spring in 2011 and its impacts on political systems as we knew it in the Islamic nations, the rise of e-commerce and digital payment systems in countries like China and India, transforming traditional retail and financial sectors, Brexit in the United Kingdom, and COVID-19, the impact of that on the world supply chain, drastic changes all around within our lifetime. These transformations reflect the intricate interplay of social, economic, and political forces globally. This new reality should let us strive at all times for a world that is more just, equitable, and sustainable for all, regardless of our geographical location or cultural background. Ladies and gentlemen, it is of certainty that the capitalist world system, which was created over the last 500 years and whose main ideology was liberalism, has been going through a deep structural crisis since the 1970s. The core heritage of the current system, that is the Western European system, what we call the capitalist system, the core heritage is largely Western and European, and it is Christian. It is European and it is Christian. The current world market system, the heritage of it is largely European and is Christian. A single interconnected system where some countries categorized as core nations, call them the Big 8, Big 6, depending on the times, exploit others, call the peripheral countries, call them the developing countries, for cheap labor and raw materials, with a middle tier of semi-peripheral, call them the middle income countries, acting as a buffer, between the two, essentially explaining global inequality through a lens of economic exploitation within a global capitalist system. Clearly, exploitation explained so beautifully within a global capitalist system. Now, the system is clearly unsustainable and will be replaced by another and perhaps better systems in the medium to long term. In that regard, we ought to position ourselves to be part of that replacement. And I think that as young Muslims, it is our responsibility, as research has established, that the current system will be replaced. It's unsustainable. As young Muslims with potential, it is for us to position ourselves to be part of that system, that better system that will replace the current system. And if you listen to the earlier speaker, our first speaker, our main speaker, he pointed to some of the things that are already happening in the Islamic world and Islamic financing, and how those systems, well developed and coordinated, could just be that replacement the world is looking for. Now, the current system, like I said, is not sustainable. And in the words of Emmanuel Wallerstein, he considers Islamism as one of the most important dissenting movements in the world system. And he also considers it as a necessarily powerful force to replace the current system. And so you see, there's already a thinking that Islamism and the Islamic financial world and its systems has the potential to replace the current system. And so the question you and I should be asking ourselves is, what role are we going to play in this prediction? Now, though there are more reasons why Islamic economies are the future economies, and they are so because they differ from the current economies in many ways. But I'll just share a few with you. One, the Islamic economy is characterized by the prohibition of interest. Riba. Prohibition of interest. And the prohibition of speculation. When our cedi begins to wobble with against the dollar, politicians, especially when we are in power and want to dodge responsibility, will tell you that it is largely due to speculation. Yes, it's partly true, but it's not always the reason. But Islamic economies do not support interest and speculation. And they also enforce a Sharia-compliant profit loss sharing and wealth redistribution. Now that is non-existent in the current economic system. And everyone, including the West and the East, are beginning to look to Islamic communities. And there's reason for it. You can talk about the energy dominance. Call it a blessing from God. The fact that today the oil-producing countries, most are these Islamic nations. So energy dominance is the reason why everyone, including the West, is beginning to look to Islamic countries. The growing consumer base. There's data that shows that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world today. And so the base to trade clearly is favoring the Islamic world. The population growth is good for the market. The infrastructure development that you see in many Islamic countries today is an attraction, is an allure for businesses and for growth. And the financial markets, the Islamic finance that is based on Sharia principles is gaining traction globally. And many are beginning to consider it as an alternative investment option. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, without boring you more, all I will say is that the future or the present is Islamic economy. That future has space and a role for you and I. How do we fit in and take advantage of the change that we are seeing in the world that is moving towards the Islamic world and the way Islam does its things, to take responsibility and the opportunities to impact our country. I wish you well, and I hope that this conversation will continue for us to get a role for each and every one of us that will help uplift our country. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini. He's not an economist in Ponyo. And see how he has delivered. I think we should give him another round of applause. Thank you so much, my brother. We are honored that you joined us. We've spent a lot of time here today, and we do understand from the organizers that the venue is going to be taken away from us pretty soon. So we have to start wrapping up. We have a lot of networking that we're going to do afterwards, where we get to interact and talk more about what has been said here. So our questions will be asked, and there will be answers from our guests. Will be outside, and we have a lot more conversations. But we will not do that until we hear a summary of the position from the chairman. He granted us a permission to start this program. I want us to hear from him whether we have permission to start wrapping up and closing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's invite back the MD of GCB Bank, who is our chairman, to give us the chairman's closing remarks.
No, thank you very much, Umar. Very, very interesting insights, right? So as we come to a close, I'd just like to spend a few minutes to recap a few comments that were made by the various speakers, and of course to share my thoughts as well. Professor Mehmet, as an economic historian, took us down memory lane in trying to get a sense of where the paradigm shift is shifting towards. In his view, in the next decade, only Germany would be from Europe as the top 10 dominant countries or economies in the world. And to buttress the point he made around, you cannot be a Muslim and still be a capitalist. Our religion strives on justice, on fairness, and compassion. Unfortunately, capitalism is the other way around. Capitalism is about yourself, it's about profit, it's not about the other person. And so in his view, you need to be a proper Muslim in order to appreciate that compassion, in order to appreciate that fairness. I work for a bank that thrives in the commercial banking model, and I can tell you that when I give you a loan, whether there's COVID or there's no COVID, you would have to pay. I have seen people die because the interest that they are supposed to pay on their facilities has far subsumed the principal amount that was given to them. And so even once you sell the collateral they have given to you, they will still be in debt. And for them, the best thing to do is to commit suicide. I've seen not once, not twice, not thrice. And that is the system that Professor Mehmet referred to as that system that does not thrive on compassion. I think one thing that we probably just glossed over was his postulation that population is so important to economic growth. And with population comes various kinds of challenges. We've heard about gayism, lesbianism. These are very dominant in non-Islamic countries. And so the point again is, with the values that Islam actually advocates, critical thoughts, where do we see the world going? Are we going to just move towards the economic prospects and forget about the social values, which probably is one of the themes for today's symposium? Then Dr. Khadija did a very brilliant
job talking about the fact that in the conversation around this paradigm shift that Honorable Suhuyini spoke about, Africa is not visible. And if you don't stand for something, you would have to accept anything. She asked us, she actually admonished us to actually stand for something or accept to be recolonized. And I thought that was very profound. Because if you don't stand for anything, you would have to accept what people have brought to you. I think for me, the interesting one was from Honorable Suhuyini speaking about Islamism. And the beauty about Islamism is the fact that it's not just about the economic part of that system. It's also about the social, the political, and the other aspects of it. It's an integrated form of governance. Yes, you could have your issues with monarchism. You can have issues with it. But you cannot have issues with the economic, social fairness that this comes with. I was listening to one professor from this university, Professor Jampo, a few weeks ago, talk about his visit to Saudi Arabia. If you leave your pen here in Saudi Arabia or any of the Islamic countries, you'd come back and meet it at the same place. I don't think it is the same in Ghana here. And not just in Ghana. When I travel out of the country, I don't feel safe in any Western country. No matter the distance that I am walking, I don't feel safe at all. If you go to any Islamic country, irrespective of the time of the day, you can walk and do anything you want to do. And the last thing you think about is your safety. You don't think about anyone holding a knife to stab you. You don't think about anyone holding a gun to shoot at you. That is the last thing you actually think about. I have never seen a madman on the streets of any Western country, of any Islamic country. I have never. A junkie, I have never. And so it's just very clear that what Honorable Suhuyini refers to as Islamism is the way to go. But we have seen non-Muslims advocate for it. The question then is, how are we positioning that as the universally accepted model for governance? When you go there to take a facility, a loan, and there's crisis, you share the loss with the bank. So COVID came, and we saw loads and loads of businesses collapsing. Because it's a force majeure. It's not their intention not to pay. But, sorry, shit happens. Unfortunately, the bank will not listen to them in Ghana or in any Western European country. So I just want to join the speakers in encouraging us to see Islamism as the way to go. And if there's anything that we are lucky for, is because we being Muslims. But Islam is a very complete religion that does not just talk about just one thing. It's a composite of all the things that we have spoken about. 2 weeks ago, I heard that the first Muslim gay imam was shot dead. And you could see how people were trying to polish it to make it look like there's a certain acceptance of gayism in our religion. Our religion is very, it's either you are a Muslim or you're not a Muslim. You can't be in between. And that probably explains the level of peace that these countries are enjoying. So I'll leave with these comments. It's very clear to us where we need to go. You either accept that peace you'd enjoy in future, or you indulge in the capitalist tendency which we see collapsing now. Capitalism is going through a lot at this moment in time, and we are seeing it. Democracies are collapsing, and Professor Mehmet made it very clear again that if we look at where the world is today, we are at a tipping point than we were pre the First and Second World War. Mainly because of the struggles that capitalism is going through and the fact that they don't want to die now. So they are holding on to the last straw. So as a conventional banker, I'll leave you again to begin to think about the impact our banking system is having on individuals. And perhaps begin to think about what would it be if we had all adopted the Prophet's counsel to move towards an Islamic finance model. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Farihan, MD for GCB Bank, and he has summarized it for us perfectly, and I think we got a sense and understand all the key takeaways from all our guests. I think we can give them another round of applause. A quick announcement, someone driving a DV car, I'm told the car is red in color, has blocked somebody. Kindly go move your car, a DV, non-registered car, kindly move it so that someone who you've blocked would be able to move. That's the first announcement. The second announcement is that the GMSA team that organized this program believe that the people who came here to speak to us today deserve to be celebrated. Don't we all agree? So National GMSA President and your team, let's do the celebration. We have some gifts for our dignitaries today at the high table. The third thing is that we'll be having a group photography outside the premises. We'll be doing that after this program. And then we would do the networking. So, Mr. President, let's do the formal presentation of the gift. The first one is to Hajia Khadija. Photographers, are we getting the shots? Thank you. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. The next is our Venerable Chief. My in-laws are the Gombes, so that's my father-in-law. Thank you so much, sir. Unfortunately, I can't speak Dagbani apart from Nna. But that saves all our problems. And then my next brother, Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for being with us. Our MD, we are most grateful. Thank you so much. Well, you said that you're committed to the finance Islamic banking. We are looking forward to that. Thank you. We'll be quoting you on that. Thank you so much. And then our special guest lecturer. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for today. Most grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So we'll be doing a group photography outside, and then we'll be doing the networking. But before then, we have to do our closing prayer. So let me invite the National Imam of the Ghana Muslim Students Association, GMSA. He did the opening prayer for us, Imam Abdul Rahim, to do the closing prayer for us. There is a mobile phone here. Okay.
Alhamdulillah, falhamdu wa shukru lillah. فإن الله من علينا بهذه النعمة ببداية هذه المؤتمر ونهايتها. نحمد الله حمدا كثيرا ونسأله أن يجعله في ميزان حسناتنا يوم لا ينفع المال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. سبحان رب عزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. صلوا على رسول الله.
Thank you so much, Imam. GMSA President, is there any other announcement aside what I've given? Are we okay? Say that again. We'll come back here. For item 13. Okay. Let me explain it in English. We'll go and take the photos. We'll come back and eat. Simple. That's what they are saying. This item 30 is diplomacy. So we'll come back for lunch when we finish with our photographs. And then we can go and pray Zuhur. It's 12 o'clock now. Thank you so much. It's been great coming and being your moderator here. My name is Umar Rusanda Amadou. I'm a journalist, like I said. I appreciate you for being a wonderful audience. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Let's meet outside for the photography. Thank you. So let's do the networking and the photography outside, and then we'll return here for lunch. Thank you so much.
إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن أبكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يقولون أإذا متنا وكنا ترابا وعظاما أإنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل إن الأولين والآخرين لمجموعون إلى ميقات يوم معلوم ثم ضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الهيم هذا نزلهم يوم الدين نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت وما نحن بمسبوقين على أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم فيما لا تعلمون ولقد علمتم النشأة الأولى فلولا تذكرون أفرأيتم ما تحرثون أأنتم تزرعونه أم نحن الزارعون لو نشاء لجعلناه حطاما فظلتم تفكهون إنا لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أأنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء جعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تورون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تنزيل من رب العالمين أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم